So I volunteered on Friday, April 20th, 2018 from 11 to 4 o'clock p.m. at St. Susan's. I was really drawn to volunteer at St. Susan's Soup Kitchen because I've lived in Jamestown for quite a while and it is an impoverished community with many food deserts. I was motivated to go and volunteer at Susan's Soup Kitchen and make a difference in the environment and the community. That being said, I think it's extremely important that we get more support from volunteers, not only in the Jamestown community, but in all communities. Volunteers can lower the costs for work that needs to get done, but they also offer so much more to the agency and the organizational culture. The organizational culture at the St. Susan Soup Kitchen was very friendly and helpful. Although I never received any formal training, the staff just helped me from moment to moment and showed me the ropes of how to get things done. That being said, the boundaries were very permeable and the hierarchy was rather flattened, in that the volunteer staff was diverse, and I was very impressed that people with developmental disabilities were volunteering, and really nice to see the manager adopt a servant leadership in which she was serving the folks around her and helping out the staff. And I also think many things, but I really noticed that volunteers were recognized for the work that they did with things such as Volunteer of the Month, and it was really nice to see. I also believe productivity was high because there are many observable artifacts throughout the St. Susan's Soup Kitchen. There's many crosses and signs of Jesus Christ throughout the building, all of which anchors the frontline workers together into a shared mission for what they want to accomplish. And although at times the nature of the work was rather classical, in which the workers were functioning like a well-oiled machine, uh, there was definitely shades of the neoclassical theory within the work and volunteering experience that I endured. At times, I was on the food line serving food, and there was a very specific way that you serve the food, and there's a very specific way that you carry trays back and forth. And in doing that, I found that there was definitely a mix of classical and neoclassical theories that could be understood within the agency. But overall, I would say the organization is rather neoclassical, in which workers are working together and they are working within the context of the agency. It's also interesting to figure out the informal and formal boundaries. The formal boundaries were that women had to wear hairnets and you always had to have gloves on and an apron. But learning the informal boundaries was much more confusing, and it kind of presented a challenge in which I thought things were going to go terribly bad. I had banged a spatula against the side of a garbage can, and come to find out one of the cooks just said that you do not do that. That is just one of those things you don't do. I didn't know that, and I thought there was going to be some terrible repercussions for banging the spatula against the garbage, but it turns out that this is just one of those informal things that you do not do. In terms of Brene Brown's theory, my experience as a volunteer was quite different from my experience as an MSW intern. As a volunteer, uh, you are not really held to as of high as a standard, and the feeling of vulnerability is much more accepted. The organizational system is much more open at St. Susan's Kitchen, and all people are accepted regardless of their disabilities or educational status. However, as an MSW intern, expected to perform and carry out my duty as a social worker to service X amount of clients and get over my doubts and fears. And with that pressure as an MSW intern, I felt much more pressure to point my finger and blame others when things went wrong or mistakes were made. But as a volunteer, I did not feel this way. Everyone was more working together, and we didn't have such a high quota to meet and services to provide. So it was a less intense feeling, and I had much more time to interact and just be out on the floor and doing things with other volunteers. And there was just that feeling of vulnerability didn't affect me as much. This volunteering experience is how rewarding it was, and just how much joy I got out of being right down in with the community members and meeting new people and helping them out. It was just really awesome, and I'm glad I got to do this.
Let me just say that every 9/11, obviously we remember those that we lost on that tragic day, but we also remember the incredible outpouring of neighbors helping neighbors, all Americans looking out for each other. And so what we've been trying to do is to make sure that we're providing an opportunity to highlight these amazing volunteers here and wonderful organizations like this one that are helping kids in need and helping to provide meals to folks who really need them and helping to keep our community strong. And so I just want to say to all the volunteers how proud we are of you, and I want to make sure that we encourage everybody out there, look for a way to volunteer in your own community.